Let's look at some examples that may help you understand how narcissism works, how it manifests itself in our lives and in the lives of others. Narcissism is an influence that convinces us is good, but it brings harm. It means by nature, narcissism is deceitful. Narcissism, as far as I'm concerned, on a spiritual level, relative to the soul of man, proceeds out of man's inherent sinful nature, the Adamic nature, the nature that was inherited through the deceit of the woman Eve in the Garden of Eden. From then on, man had inherited a sinful, evil nature that he needed to be rescued from. But what we know is there's different individuals' susceptibilities to the sinful nature. Some people are more susceptible to it than others. That's why there's prisons. If the sinful nature can penetrate into the mind of someone that's not so susceptible to it, then that person is going to be in more trouble. They're going to narcissize, if that's the word you want to use. Narcissism means move towards evil, devalue that which is good. To give you an example outside of a relationship, I still am a masonry contractor, and I used to employ a lot of men to lay bricks and do stonework and block work and that type of construction. And one of the things we had to be aware of was the potential for somebody to come for a job that looked good on the surface, but within a week or two would fade away in performance and attitude. They'd narcissize. They'd come in valuing the potential of an opportunity to have a great job. They'd put on the show, paralleling with the love bomb phase, and then begin to devalue the position. That's why people have interviews and try and find the person that'd be best for the job. Prevent being caught with a narcissist. Now, these examples are good ways to help you to parallel what you're dealing with in a relationship. The idealization, the fantasy that you made at the beginning of the relationship with the hope that it would all flourish, usually is confronted with the fact that it's wilted. And this wilting, by determination of devotion and commitment and loyalty and trying to prove that, is to some extent ignored and received as normal when it's not. So as the tree that's supposed to bear fruit begins to wilt, there's no point trying to water it more or look after it more. It's going to die. It's narcissizing. Now, if you parallel that with a relationship that's affecting your mental health and then consequently your physical health, and some of you have suffered permanent physical injuries as a result of the stress and strain and confusion and disruption that narcissizing causes you. I mean, if you really look at narcissism, it's in everything. It's a parasite. Through permanent complex post-traumatic stress disorder, heart attacks, strokes, and other permanent ailments that can only be proven to have happened because of the psychological stress that narcissism has induced on its victims. Now, the problem with this is there's no recompense for this. There's no insurance claim you can make against somebody that narcissizes the relationship and causes you injury. The only thing that you can do is identify it, realize that this isn't a situation that's going to improve. This isn't a problem that's going to get any better. It's coming from the sinful nature from within that person, or if it's you, from within your sinful nature, and you've got no consciousness or resistance towards it. You're just going along with the narcissism, and now you're realizing that it's bringing you down. That's what it does. It devalues, degenerates, and then discards its victim to come back around again and hoover and try again. It's a vicious cycle until you're completely destroyed. That's the end game. The problem with it is, if it is in the relationship context, if you identify it and then begin the process of discard of the person, there's complexities that are going to come with that are associated with that. And well, one might be an injury. That person suffers a narcissistic injury where they've lost control, they've lost the authority that they got supply from over you whilst abusing you. And these narcissistic injuries can even go to narcissistic collapses, where the person won't just play up by objecting to your new course of life and opposing it. They'll begin to feign sicknesses and illnesses and fainting, or they'll deliberately hurt themselves and go to hospital or something to try and get your attention. I've seen it. And when you ignore that, it gets really bad for that person, because now the narcissism they had in the relationship that they ignored turned on them, manifested from the inside out in the form of injury and collapse, and that hasn't worked. So what happens? They go around in a cycle. Now they have to recover and find a new source of supply, and the cycle begins again. Because narcissism comes from within, and if the individual who is suffering from it hasn't identified it or dealt with it from within themselves, they're never going to fix it, and it will reoccur over and over again. Just in closing, a narcissist could have a relationship with one person, and the blend of that relationship could last 12 months before it narcissizes. Then they could meet another person, and that could go 5 years due to the blend that they have with that person. The speed in which the narcissism takes place is variable. Variable in impact and variable in the duration relative to the impact it's having on its victims and on the person who's demonstrating it. For instance, a discard may not result in a hoover, because if the narcissist knows that you've come to your end a Hoover's not going to happen. They'll just disintegrate onto new supply. So for those of you that expected someone to come back and they haven't, they've realised, even as a narcissist, that journey's over. And so they move on to other forms of supply. They might even go backwards to a previous form of supply as a means of continuing their appetite. So, till the next talk, bye for now.